I came home to Oklahoma expecting peace. But instead of quiet fields, I found bulldozers carving up my land, and an HOA president building a runway through my farm. They called it progress. I called it war. After years of running the Federal Aviation Administration in Washington, D.C., I thought I'd earned a break, a week of fishing, tomatoes, and silence. But when I pulled up to my father's old farm, silence was the last thing I heard. Engines roared. Men in vests hammered stakes into the ground. At first, I thought the county was fixing the road, until I saw the cones inside my fence line. Then I spotted her, Patricia Vaughn, the HOA president, arms crossed, sunglasses glinting. Behind her, workers spray-painted white lines across my pasture. "Patricia," I called. "What's going on here?" She smiled like she owned the place. "Well, look who finally showed up. We've been making improvements while you were away." "Improvements?" I asked. "On my property?" She smirked. "Progress doesn't wait for anyone, Marcus. This community's moving forward. Don't get in our way." I looked at the stakes, perfectly straight, perfectly aligned with the wind. My gut told me exactly what this was. But I kept quiet. At the general store, old man Horace leaned over the counter. "Rumor is Patricia's building herself one of those fly-in communities," he said. "You know, like in Florida, where rich folks land planes next to their houses, an airstrip." I asked. He nodded. "If you wanted peace and quiet, son, you came to the wrong farm." That night, I walked the lines myself. The markers cut through the pasture, over the pond, right to the trees. Perfect distance, perfect direction, perfectly illegal. Standing there at dusk, with the bulldozers growling in the dark, I realized two things. My vacation was over, and Patricia had picked a fight with the wrong man. Because I wasn't just Marcus Chen, farmer. I was Marcus Chen, director of the FAA. And she had no idea. By morning, they were in full swing. Trucks lined the road, pouring gravel. Patricia strutted around in a hard hat, barking orders like she was building a skyscraper. I walked over. "Morning, Patricia. Building me a new driveway? You should be thanking us," she said. "This will bring value to your property. Imagine your neighbors flying right in. You realize this is my land, right?" I asked. She waved a hand. "The board voted. Majority rules." I laughed. "You voted to build a runway on private property." Her smile tightened. "Progress doesn't wait, Marcus." I stepped closer. "Patricia, you can't just build wherever you want. There are laws, federal laws." She crossed her arms. "Then sue us. By the time it hits court, this will be operational. Maybe you should just sell." That was her mistake. She had no clue she'd just threatened the one man who could shut her entire project down. I didn't confront her, not yet. Instead, I got busy. I installed motion-activated cameras all around the property. Within days, I had hours of footage. Bulldozers tearing up soil, trucks dumping gravel, workers hammering private airstrip signs into my ground. Then I talked to neighbors. Mrs. Delgado couldn't sleep. Her windows rattled all night. Ryan, a young dad, said his kids woke at 2 a.m. from the noise. By the end of the week, I had a mountain of evidence, photos, videos, witness statements. Then came the jackpot. I found contracts behind the clubhouse. Membership agreements offering hangar access for $10,000 apiece. Patricia wasn't just breaking the law. She was running a scam. 2 weeks later, Patricia hosted her grand opening. Balloons, folding chairs, champagne, even a red ribbon stretched across the new asphalt. A banner read, Welcome to the future. Patricia took the stage, smiling like a celebrity. Ladies and gentlemen, she said, today we make history. This runway will put our community on the map. She raised her glass to progress. Then she pointed to the sky. And now, for our first flight. A twin-engine plane circled overhead, lowering for approach. The crowd cheered. That was my cue. I stepped forward, calm and steady. Patricia, I called, you might want to hold off on the champagne. She frowned. Marcus, not now. I reached into my jacket and held up my badge. My name is Marcus Chen, Director of the Federal Aviation Administration. And as of this moment, this runway is officially shut down. The crowd went silent. Patricia's smile vanished. You can't do this. Actually, I said, I'm the only one who can. The plane above banked sharply as sheriff's deputies, already briefed, waved signals. Engines roared as the pilot climbed away from the runway. Gasps spread through the crowd. Patricia dropped her microphone. This is a misunderstanding. We have investors. I handed her the cease and desist order. Illegal construction, federal violations, fraud. Effective immediately, everything stops. Deputies moved in, collecting papers and snapping photos. Reporters filmed every second. Patricia's voice cracked. This was for progress. I shook my head. No, Patricia, this was for you. Your ego, your greed. And now, it's over. That night, every local channel ran the footage. HOA president exposed an illegal runway scheme. The clip went viral. Within a week, the board voted her out, unanimously. The cheer that followed could probably be heard to towns over. Then came the fines. Unauthorized construction, environmental damage, fraud. Each one is big enough to bankrupt a small business. A few days later, demolition crews arrived. They tore up the runway, filled the ground, and leveled the dirt. By sunset, my farm looked almost normal again, except for faint black scars in the soil. I stood there, hands in pockets, watching the light fade. My father would have laughed, maybe cursed, but he'd have been proud. This wasn't just about an HOA gone wild. It was about pride, about people who think the rules don't apply to them. Patricia Vaughn believed she could bulldoze her way to prestige. She thought a vote could override the law. But no one outruns reality. My father used to say, the land remembers. It knows who respects it and who abuses it. As I watched those bulldozers tear up her runway, I finally understood. To anyone dealing with a bully, an HOA, a boss, a neighbor, remember this. You don't need to shout the loudest to win. Sometimes patience, preparation, and truth are the sharpest weapons you can carry. All I wanted was a quiet week off. Instead, I shut down the shortest-lived airport in America. And Patricia Vaughn? She learned that when you try to take flight without clearance, the landing is always rough. If you enjoyed this HOA revenge story, hit that like button, subscribe for more true-style HOA dramas, and drop a comment. What would you have done if your HOA tried to build a runway on your land?